They have been here since before your civilization had a name. They were worshipped as gods in summer, feared as giants in Canaan, recorded in stone by the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Sumerians. Cultures that never met, separated by oceans and centuries, all describing the same beings, the same descent from the sky, the same terrifying power. Governments have spent decades telling you these craft, these lights, these encounters are unexplained. They are not unexplained. They were explained thousands of years ago, in texts so ancient, so precise, so convergent across every civilization on Earth, that the only question left is this: why have you never been told? What you are about to hear is not a theory. It is the convergence of history, archaeology, science, and the oldest theological record in human civilization. Stay with this, because by the end, nothing about the UFO phenomenon will look the same. Before Adam drew his first breath, a class of beings existed whose power dwarfed anything in recorded human history. They were not biological creatures from another galaxy. They were beings of spirit and fire. Luminous, ancient, created before the foundations of the world were laid. The ancient Hebrews called them the Ben Elohim. The Book of Enoch calls them the Watchers. And approximately 5,000 years ago, in an act of deliberate, coordinated cosmic rebellion, 200 of them descended. The location is recorded with unsettling precision. Mount Hermon, on the border of what is now Lebanon and Syria. They came down together. They swore oaths together. And they chose to cross the one boundary their Creator had forbidden. They took human women as their own. The result of that crossing was something the ancient world had no category for. The Book of Enoch, one of the oldest preserved texts in existence, describes the offspring of that union as beings of terrible power. Vast in stature, voracious in appetite, and utterly destructive in nature. The Hebrews called them the Nephilim. And here is what the mainstream narrative will never tell you. This account does not exist in isolation. It exists in every major, ancient civilization on Earth. The Sumerians described beings they called the Anunnaki, sky gods who descended, who possessed knowledge far beyond humanity, who interacted with human populations and left an indelible imprint on their civilization. Scholars have spent decades debating whether these are mythological constructs. The ancient Sumerians themselves never treated them as myth. They treated them as historical fact. In Egypt, the pre-dynastic period, the era before the pharaohs that is still largely unexplained, preserves records of beings called the Neteru, divine beings who preceded human kings, who transmitted the knowledge of civilization to mankind. Their iconography is luminous, radiant, towering. Cross the Atlantic, and the Mesoamerican civilizations tell the same story. The Olmecs, the Maya, the Aztecs, all preserve accounts of beings who descended from above, who possessed advanced astronomical and architectural knowledge, and who departed with the promise of return. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, a being of light and sky who came, who taught, and who left. These are not coincidences of mythology. When unconnected civilizations, separated by oceans, separated by centuries, record the same being with the same characteristics, descending from above, luminous, possessing forbidden knowledge, interacting with human women, producing hybrid offspring. You are not reading mythology. You are reading history, convergent witness testimony from every corner of the ancient world, pointing to the same class of entities, the same event horizon. The descent. The descent. The Creator judged this transgression with a global cataclysm, the flood of Noah. The watchers themselves were bound and confined, their fate sealed. The Nephilim were destroyed, but their spirits were not. The Book of Jubilees, a text preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, records that a portion of the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim were permitted to remain active upon the earth after the flood. These are what Scripture elsewhere calls unclean spirits, wandering, seeking habitation, seeking expression in the physical world they had been violently expelled from. And the program did not end. Post-flood civilization carries the fingerprints of the same agenda. The giants of Canaan documented in Numbers 13. The Rephaim of Bashan, Goliath and his brothers, the recurring motif of hybrid beings, beings that are almost human, but not quite, continues through every era of recorded ancient history. The Nephilim agenda was never terminated. It was relocated. It went underground, into bloodlines, into secret traditions, into the mystery religions of every civilization that followed. The flood destroyed the physical Nephilim. It did not destroy their program. Watch what happens to these entities across the centuries. In ancient Greece and Rome, they are the gods of Olympus. In medieval Europe, the demons and fallen angels of theological treatises. In the 19th century, the fairy folk of Celtic tradition. Beings that steal humans, that produce changelings, that inhabit a realm just beyond the visible. And then something shifts. The industrial age arrives, the technological age dawns. And suddenly, these same entities, the same class of non-human intelligences that have been interacting with humanity since the beginning, change their costume entirely. By 1947, they are piloting disc-shaped craft over the skies of Roswell, New Mexico. The beings are the same. The program is the same. Only the presentation has changed. Archaeology operates on evidence, and the physical evidence left by these beings across the ancient world is staggering in its consistency. The Sumerian cuneiform tablets, some of the oldest written records on Earth, dating to approximately 3500 BCE, describe the Anunnaki with anatomical precision. They are taller than humans, they are luminous, they descend from above. They possess knowledge of agriculture, law, mathematics, and astronomy that the Sumerians could not have developed independently in the time frame their civilization allows. The tablets do not describe these beings as metaphors. They list their names, their genealogies, their specific interactions with specific Sumerian kings. In Egypt, the Palermo stone, one of the oldest royal annals in existence, records a pre-dynastic period ruled not by human kings, but by beings called the Neteru. This period, referred to by later Egyptians as Zep-Tepi, the first time, is described as a golden age when divine beings walk the earth. The architectural legacy of that age, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Sphinx, structures whose precision and scale still defy full explanation by modern engineering, is the physical monument to their presence. And the pattern continues westward. The megalithic structures of Peru, Sacsayhuaman, Tiwanaku, feature stonework of such extraordinary precision that modern engineers using modern equipment cannot fully replicate it. Stones weighing hundreds of tons, fitted without mortar, with tolerances measured in millimeters. The ancient Peruvians attributed this construction to the Viracochas, beings who came from the sky, who built, who taught, and who departed. Here is what the archaeology demands you confront. These are not parallel myths that emerged independently from primitive imaginations, trying to explain natural phenomena. Myths do not leave megalithic architecture. Myths do not produce cuneiform genealogies, listing the names of specific non-human beings across hundreds of years of recorded history. Myths do not appear in the Dead Sea Scrolls in the form of the Book of Enoch, with precise geographical and temporal detail that matches the biblical record. What we are looking at, across Sumer, Egypt, the Levant, Mesoamerica, and the Celtic world, is convergent archaeological testimony to the same phenomenon. The same descent, the same interaction, the same hybrid program, the same departure, the same promise of return. The evidence points not to divergence, but to convergence. The hallmark not of independent mythology, but of recorded history, describing actual events witnessed by actual human beings across a span of thousands of years. Perhaps the most significant piece of archaeological evidence for this phenomenon is not stone or metal. It is text, specifically the text that the established canon decided not to include. The Book of Enoch was found in its complete form among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran in 1947, the same year as Roswell. The text describes Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, being taken to see the imprisoned watchers, recording their judgment in terrifying detail. It describes their offspring. It describes the disembodied Nephilim spirits permitted to remain active on Earth. And it describes their future. These texts were not suppressed because they were false. They were suppressed because they were too explanatory. They named what was happening. They gave the ancient phenomenon a taxonomy so precise that it would have made the coming rebranding of these entities impossible. If you know they are the Watchers, you cannot be deceived into calling them extraterrestrials. The suppression of the text was preparation for the deception that was coming. And the deception has been remarkably successful until now.
Let us speak the language of the modern age for a moment. The objects documented in declassified military footage. The tic-tac, the gimbal, the go fast, exhibit flight characteristics that violate every known principle of aerospace engineering. They accelerate from stationary to hypersonic speeds with no visible propulsion, no sonic boom. They execute instantaneous 90-degree turns at velocities that would generate forces thousands of times beyond what any known material could withstand. They transition from air to water to space without structural modification. They are detected simultaneously on multiple independent sensor systems: radar, infrared, visual, eliminating the possibility of instrument malfunction. The unanimous conclusion of every credible aerospace engineer and physicist who has studied this data is the same. These objects are not operating within the known physical constraints of matter and energy. They are not constrained by inertia. They are not constrained by drag. They move as if the laws of physics that govern solid objects do not apply to them. Now ask the scientific question that no government panel has been willing to ask. What category of phenomenon moves without being constrained by the physics of solid matter? The answer is not a solid object from another star system. The engineering requirements for interstellar travel, even at a fraction of the speed of light, are so energetically prohibitive that the mathematics of stellar distances alone makes the biological extraterrestrial hypothesis nearly impossible. The nearest star system is 4 light-years away, at the fastest speed any human-engineered spacecraft has ever achieved. That journey would take over 70,000 years. But a being whose fundamental constitution is not solid matter, a being of electromagnetic energy, of plasma state existence, of what ancient texts describe as spirit and fire, faces none of these constraints. It does not travel between star systems because it does not originate from star systems. It exists within the very electromagnetic fabric of the created realm. It manifests, it dematerializes. It moves at the speed of will, not the speed of thrust. The physics of UAP behavior does not describe a technological craft. It describes something that is not, at its core, a physical object at all. The physical effects documented in UAP encounters are consistently electromagnetic in character. Car engines failing, electronic equipment going dead, compass needles spinning, radiation burns from close proximity events. Crop formation sites show soil with dramatically elevated electromagnetic residue. These are the signatures not of metal and fuel combustion, but of intense, localized electromagnetic field distortion. Scripture described this reality thousands of years before the instruments existed to measure it. Psalm 134. Who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers a flaming fire? The ancient Hebrew writers were not using poetic metaphor. They were describing the electromagnetic plasma state nature of beings who intersect with the physical world by compressing their energetic constitution into visible, interactable form. The scientific instruments of the modern age are now detecting exactly what the ancient text described. Beings of light and fire, manifesting at the edge of visible electromagnetic frequencies, leaving the physical residue of their energetic nature wherever they appear. History has documented them. Archaeology has traced their physical evidence across every civilization. Science has confirmed that what is being observed cannot be physical craft from another world. There is one framework that has explained this phenomenon with complete coherence. Not for decades, but for millennia. The beings the modern world calls extraterrestrials are the same beings the ancient world called the Watchers, the Nephilim, the principalities and powers. They are fallen, luminous, ancient intelligences, operating within the boundaries of a created order they once served and chose to betray. They can replicate light. They cannot replicate redemption. They can mimic glory. They cannot offer salvation. And that, in the end, is the single test that exposes everything. The seals that Daniel was told would not be opened until the time of the end. They are opening. The question is not whether these beings are real. They are. The question is whether you know what they actually are. Now you do.